I need to vent about the Cleveland Browns because the Cleveland Browns have been such a frustrating, unproductive, unsatisfying mess that it's finally built up in a ball that I find it necessary to vent. I don't often vent. It's very rare I vent, but I need to vent because this Browns team might be, and I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this. I'm not being sarcastic when I say this. I want you to know I'm being 100% genuine when I say this. I believe this team to be the most disappointing football team I've ever had the displeasure of following. Because not only, think about how much they've let down, and the season isn't even over yet. Last year, I made a video where I thought that we had seen the forest for the trees, right? That as Browns fans, we have finally gotten out of this constant era where we're worried about being dragged down into being what the Browns were from 99 to 2017. I thought that team demonstrating that they could win 11 games despite everything that went wrong was a demonstration that they had a head coach who gave this team a floor. That they had an organization that gave this team a floor that was above any floor that they've ever had. Right? I remember making that video tearing up because I thought to myself, they finally have a floor. Yeah, every year is not going to be 11 wins, but they'll have a floor. Right now, I'm looking at this Browns team and I'm thinking to myself, my God, they can win 2 games for the rest of the year. Or maybe they only win 2 games the whole year. You look at the rest of the schedule. Denver's playing really good football. Pittsburgh's playing really good football. Kansas City, they just lost, but they're still Kansas City. Baltimore, pretty good. Cincinnati, they're desperate. And they're better than you, even though they're not that good. I can't help but be so profoundly disappointed. Not because the Browns aren't Super Bowl contenders like I thought they were. Not because they don't have a decent record. The reason I am disappointed in the Browns is because everything that we thought would protect us from falling into the nether regions of hell like this team has fallen into has broken. We thought we would have quarterback play at the worst would just be mediocre from Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson comes out here in 2024 and plays worse than mediocre. Right? We were thinking, okay, if the Browns just have mediocre quarterback play, we'd be fine. Well, Deshaun Watson gives us quarterback play that was definitively much worse than mediocre. It's not even debatable. There are people who will debate it. They have nothing to back it up. Every single number, all the film suggests he was worse than mediocre. The only quarterback he compared to was the first 3 games of Bryce Young in 2024. So yeah, Deshaun falls off a cliff. He just is not capable of playing NFL football anymore for whatever reason. Okay, that safety net breaks, but we weren't really leaning on that one. That was the most shaky one. But we thought, hey, this defense. With Jim Schwartz here, putting the pieces in the right place. He's a veteran coach. He's been a good defensive coordinator. He's been a defensive coordinator on the Super Bowl team that won because of their defensive unit. This is somebody who's going to keep this defense right. And I watched this team, and they look more Joe Woods than the Joe Woods defense they played against. It ain't like Joe Woods' defense was humming. Jameis had 400 on him. But they out Joe Woods to Joe Woods defense. Got towed up by Taysom Hill. We went from the best defense that Earth has seen since maybe the 85 Bears to getting toe up by Taysom Hill in less than a calendar year. Kevin Stefanski, I thought he was going to provide us a floor. I was like, hey, well, Kevin, the worst you're going to do is like 7 wins, man. I don't know if we get to 7. It'd take a hell of an effort to get to 7 wins right now. Everything that we thought that this team finally cleared last year, they violently, rudely went out of their way, it feels like, this football team, to demonstrate to us that they did not make that progress. And that's what bums me out about this team. Maybe this is just a bad year, right? And they will go back to showing that progress either with Kevin as the head coach or with somebody else. It's possible. Teams have down years. It's not the most unheard of thing in the world. But I guess that's just what bums me out. Is I really thought we were clearing the hurdle. I thought that there was a good chance that we just become a playoff contender for the next few years. Maybe we win it all, maybe we don't, but we're worried about the playoffs and we're not worried about falling through the goddamn bottom. I was really hoping that they would avoid that. And then they go out, lose to the Saints. Like the Chargers, I can make an understanding of why you lost to the Chargers. They're better than you this year. They got a better quarterback than you. They got a better defense. Okay. It's their year. It's not your year. And even then, you kept that game close. But how this team folded in the last half of that Saints game, man, I don't know if they're better than that. What's obvious to be, and look, I know some people are going to argue about what changes need to be made, and I don't have a strong opinion about who should stay, who shouldn't go right now, because honestly, the way this season has gone has made me rethink everything. I usually am somebody who thinks Kevin's a good coach, but I'm going to reevaluate that opinion. I'm usually somebody who thinks Andrew Berry's doing a pretty good job. I don't know, man. This season brings reevaluation of that. Paul DePodesta, does he need to go? Who knows? I don't know. Let's reevaluate it, right? Everything's on the table for this team. And if you're watching how they're playing football right now and you think no changes are going to be made, that's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And it's going to be funny to me, too, because I talked about how I'm making Cavs videos, I think, at the beginning of this video, or at least I hope I did. And by the way, if you don't know, I'm making Cavs videos on my Quincy channel, KWEN_C. Make sure you check that out if you want to talk about something. It's a little bit more joyful than the Cleveland Browns right now. But I think people are going to use the Cavs to make both arguments, right? You're going to look at the Cavs. They didn't change any of their players. They didn't trade anybody. They didn't make any giant moves. And people are going to say, hey, look, that's why you should keep the core of the roster together. That's why you should keep Kevin here. Then you're going to see people are like, hey, see how the Cavs fired JB and went to Kenny Atkinson, got much better? And they're going to use that as like the justification for firing a coach. I don't think any of those Cavs parallels apply here because the Cavs last year were still like the 4 seed in the playoffs. The Browns right now might have the 4th pick in the NFL draft. Like, again, I thought part of having a good organization, a good coach, like we thought we had when 2023 ended, was that you would have a floor, right? But right now, I'm looking at the Browns' schedule. I'm watching how they played, and I'm thinking to myself, man, how they going to even get to 4 wins? And if you think I'm the only person thinking that, I'm not, because there's a lot of people watching this video thinking that same thing, living through and working through this disappointment. I think Jimmy Haslam's thinking that same thing, right? I think Jimmy was like, hey, man, part of having these two guys work together and trusting these guys is that we're going to have a floor of failure here that's going to be higher than what it was in the past. But if you lose out for the rest of the season or you don't look competitive for whatever reason, what floor do you really have? What culture are you really building? I guess that's just what hurts me, and I think maybe if you feel the same way about the Browns as I do, is that it felt like they were really turning the corner this time because they did what they did last year, not behind a single quarterback, but as a unit, right? Like everybody did their part and they did it as a unit. And I thought that belief of themselves in this unit would carry over into this year. And it's the exact opposite. Like if last year's success was because they got like a hot random year from a quarterback, like they did with Derek Anderson, you could argue Joe Flacco was a random hot year, but they were having success with the quarterbacks that they started before Joe Flacco. PJ Walker, DTR, Deshaun Watson, they were having success with those guys, and those guys weren't having random great years, right? Like it'd be one thing if like Joe Flacco had started like 12 games and that was the reason the Browns were able to make the run because he won like 10 of those 12. Man, they did everything with such a collective effort last year that it really made you feel like there was a floor on this team, that they wouldn't allow themselves to be this bad. But then I watched shit like I watched on Sunday. And I wonder, how much do I actually know about this team anymore? Yeah, I know I said, and I wanted to evaluate, give myself some time to think about it. Is Kevin actually on the hot seat after that loss? And I have to stay, even after thinking on it, sleeping on it. Yeah, Kevin's on the hot seat for sure, man. And he should be on the hot seat. Andrew's on the hot seat for sure, man. And he should be on the hot seat. Because are we defending his accolades, his resume, or are we defending what we're seeing on the field right now? And what I'm seeing on the field is a team that doesn't have the culture that we thought that they had that made them somebody that you want to re-sign. What I'm seeing right now is a team that does not have the internal leadership developed that I thought that they had. And what I'm seeing right now is a team that's just as capable of stinking as they're just as capable as being good. And that's not something that makes a head coach impossible to fire. So should the Browns fire Kevin Stefanski? I don't know. But it shouldn't be an option that's off the table. It should be considered. It shouldn't be done in a knee-jerk reaction way, but it should be on the table. Even if you're a Kevin Stefanski supporter, which I usually am, you have to admit, the record is what it is. The way they've looked, how can he not be on the hot seat? How is that a ridiculous statement? It's not. It's just not. And I get it. I didn't want to fire Kevin, or I didn't want Kevin to get fired because I thought that was the ticket to get to where we wanted to get to. And I thought 2023 brought us there, right, where we're not worried about falling through the bottom. But this season has me questioning if Kevin's actually going to be the guy that brings that. Because all the things that I thought had this team turn the corner, it's not there right now. And if he didn't do that, then what did he do last year? Like what actually did happen? Was it what we thought it was? How much do we value that 11-win season when he's had 3 seasons that were much, much worse than that? It's all stuff to think about. I'm not telling you to come to the definitive answer. I'm actually going to encourage you not to come to a definitive answer on this. But it is something to think about. Because I think this team has enough talent that if they get the right people, and maybe they already have the right people, but if they get the right people, you can make this bunch into something. We've seen it before. The question is Kevin the right guy to make that argument anymore to this team? The question is Andrew Berry the right guy to add to this team? Again, I'm not asking you to make a definitive statement right now because there's no way you can have one right now. It's something to reevaluate. At least that's what I'm doing. That's my rant, my feelings on this. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. I'll be back.